Been with the Mercenary King here with another deck profile. This is Narukami Eradicator's Thunderstrike deck with voltages. You know, it's pretty good. I enjoy it. But I kind of feel that it's kind of one of those decks that not a lot of people play right. I've yet to see any, like, somebody reading this might be like, oh, he's calling me out. No. I fought a pretty decent amount of voltage players, you know, like from various travels to Kansas City and, you know, like Dizzy's Dugout and places like that. You know, I fought, not Dizzy's Dugout, why did I say that? Springfield? I think I fought one in Springfield. You know, that played it, and I just wasn't impressed. Partly because a lot of people I don't think play as aggressive of a build as I do in the rearguard section. Especially with some of the crazy stuff that I pull off with some of the triggers. And especially, sweet Bernadette. No, I'm just kidding. Bernadette's fine. Especially with some of the new support. Bisham and Martial Arts Dragon especially do a lot of work and give a lot of power into this deck that I really think a lot of players aren't taking advantage of. I also think Rock Climb Dragoon just never was that good. You know, there's a lot different, better ways to kill something and bind it. You know, especially when they can choose like, okay, front row, and it's like, ooh, you savvy son of a bitch. Starter is Ascetic Draco Kid. Thunderstrike 1, when this unit boosts, this unit gets plus 2k. So he's a 5k, and he becomes a 7k booster at Thunderstrike 1, which is super easy. Auto Rearguard. Retire this unit, GB1. When a player's rearguard other than this unit, when any player's rearguard other than this unit is retired from rearguard due to a card effects during your turn, pay a cost. If the opponent chooses one of his or her rearguards, retires it, binds it face up. So, let's say that I strode, and then they strode into Blade Master, killed one of my cards. I can literally go, oh, poof, die, kill your card. Honestly, I don't much care for that skill. I like him because he's a 7k booster, but also he's kind of an insurance plan. Either they'll attack him first, or they'll attack one of my other units, and then I call him out. And it's all kinds of fun in games, especially when they retire and bind it. And it's not bound by Thunderstrike, which is good. Like, that's that most of all. It's just fantastic. I can get an instant Thunderstrike, too, by just killing something with voltage and then retiring him. Starters. Jin of Rainy Duststorm. I only run 2 because, honestly, he's not that good. But Auto GB1, when this unit is placed on rearguard, this unit gets plus 3k until end of turn. Choose one of your units, and that unit gets Auto Vanguard Rearguard. Thunderstrike 1. Just 1. When this unit attack hits a Vanguard, your opponent chooses one of his or her rearguards, retires it, binds it face up until end of turn. Basically, you play him, he's a 7k booster, and you give the thing in front of you an on hit. Choose him. Or Chatura, who already has an on hit. Or like Voltage Horn Dragon, and make it even more pressure. It's fantastic. I run 4 Dragon Dancer Vian. Auto Rearguard. GB1. Put this unit at the top of the deck. When your opponent's rearguard is put into the drop zone, pay the cost. Shuffle deck. Draw a card. Choose a card from your damage on turn face up. Some people forget to turn cards face up. They really shouldn't do that, but she is a stand that goes back into the deck, gives you a draw, unflips damage. There is no downside to her other than you have to have her in your hand when you start retiring things. By the way, you can use it with voltage to boost, then, you know, disappear. Because it's too late. Haha, suckers. Jin, Lightning of Triumphant Return Resef. It goes in the soul plus 5k and draw a card. 2, Malevolent Jin goes in the soul plus 3k to something. 4, Deity of Love, Kama. I don't like this art, but all the art's kind of shitty. I don't like any of their. I don't like a lot of their triggers, honestly. Like how they animate it or art it up. They you know, it's not like Kagero, but they should copy Kagero in some things. Well. So grade 1. I run 2 Bernadette, Dragon Dancer. Thunderstrike 2, Soul Blast 1. This unit boosts. You may pay the cost if you do until end of battle. Boosted unit gets plus 3k, and Auto Vanguard Rearguard Counterblast 1. When the opponent's attack hits the Vanguard, pay the cost. If you do, your opponent chooses one of his or her rearguards, retires it, and binds that card face up. So, the interesting thing about this is that I do sometimes like to start comboing up on hit retires, like with this right here. If you know your opponent kind of has to make a hard choice to let some things hit, but they will block your Vanguard, might as well have cards like Bernadette show up to ruin their day and really just give them a hard time. Especially the on hit for just Counterblast 1, -1 your opponent is just so good. And it can really set up a bunch of binds that can boost up during your voltage turn. 2, Dragon Dancer 15. Auto, Thunderstrike 2, Soul Blast 1. When this unit's placed on rearguard, pay the cost, draw a card. So it's Thunderstrike, interestingly enough, from no G-Break. If only there was some way we could take advantage of that. And there is, but we're not worried about that yet. She's just a +1 for placing her. She's better than Phoenix because it's less soul, because there are cards here that use soul. And not as many cards go into the soul as you might think. She's just a really good card, that +1. I only run 2 Mighty Bolt Dragoon. A lot of people run 4 of him, but I don't really see the point other than to conserve grade 2s in your hand or grade 3s. But honestly, I just never had... just never needed more than 2 of them. Especially with how Bernadette and Fatine work, I just like their abilities more. If I can get to stride just once, it's over. Chain Bolt Dragoon. Auto rearguard GB1. When your opponent's rearguard is put into the drop zone to the effect of your cards, have a grade 3 or greater Vanquisher. Your opponent chooses a card from the drop zone, binds it face up. If a card was bound, choose up to one of your other units +2k. So the +2ks floating around is great, but really he's there to keep the bind going. So let's say that you're with a martial arts dragon. That, at Thunderstrike 2, because it will be at Thunderstrike 2 at that point, can be a 21k column. That's good. Other ones don't really hit as hard, but Chatura, will hit 13k, which is cross-ride numbers. Other things like that, which, if you combine up Chatura with a Bernadette, that's choice right there, because it's 22k to your Vanguard for a Soul Blast, which is why I don't run too many Fatines. You see my predicaments here. I just kind of really have to be careful about my resource management. And then I run 4 Anastasias, Dragon Dancers. Basically, she's a perfect shield that unflips damage. That's all I need, baby. Also, her art is choice. I love all the Dragon Dancers. They're fantastic. I don't know what it is about the aesthetic of the hourglass body, the belly dancing, and by the way, fat belly dancers. No. Slim belly dancers. Yes. Dragon Dancer. She's okay. Honestly, she strikes me more as a Tachikaze unit. Like, when I saw her art, I thought of her as a Tachikaze unit until I saw the lightning. But even then, I still kind of see her as a Tachikaze unit. But she is cute. Except for all the daggers of fire. But, other than that, I think I have a shot. I think I'm going to go up to a bar. I'm going to slick back the hair, offer her a drink. Come back later missing an arm. What happened? Well, she's, Dragon Dancer's quite literal. Anyway, Martial Arts Dragon, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1. When this is placed on Vanguard Circle, pay the cost. If you do, choose one of your opponent's rearguards in the front row, retire it, bind that card face up. I like this card because he retires something in the front row and binds it face up. It kills rush decks. It causes all sorts of problems for your opponent. It starts off your G-breaks early. I kind of wish this was, not G-break for this ability. But this is just like, it's like, oh, you swung at me twice. Boom. Ha ha. Sort of thing. It's like old, what's the name of it? Singularity Dragon? It's a Link Joker unit. Star Vader, Gravity Well Dragon, I want to say. Gravity Ball? No, that was the Schwarzschild ride chain. I don't remember it. Point is, there was one that was on hit lock a unit. That's a really good ability for a Vanguard at grade 2. This is the same sort of deal. He also has the Thunder Strike 2. This unit gets plus 3k during your turn, and that's really more just gravy. To help hit numbers with things like Chainbolt Dragoon and Dragon Dancer Bernadette, who is just a joy. I run one Rock Lime Dragon, Auto GB1, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1. This unit is placed on rearguard. Vanquisher, Vanguard, opponent chooses one of his or her rearguards, retires it, binds that card face up, and plus this unit gets plus 2k. So the problem is with him is that he doesn't do enough. He doesn't really give you any advantage. He just gives you one more bind for a Counterblast and a Soul Blast. And I don't know about you, but I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I've got 8 cards, 12 cards already that use Soul Blasts. I don't really want to waste it on 1/1 when I could have attackers and on-hit retires and all kinds of good pressure cards. I run 3 Voltage Horn Dragons. Honestly, this should be a much more expensive card than it is, but it's not. Auto Rearguard GB1, Counterblast 1. This unit attacks a Vanguard. This unit boosted. Pay the cost if you do. Choose one. Opponent chooses one of his or her rearguards, retires it, binds it face up. And then, of course, you combine it with Bernadette or the Stand Trigger or the Jin Stand Trigger. Jin of Rainy Duststorm, and there's just all kinds of combos you can do with it for on hits, more retire, Ascetic Drago Kid, more everything. Demonic Dragon Berserker Chatura. This is one of the best cards in Narukami and probably one of the best commons in the game. Continuous Rearguard. This unit cannot attack a rearguard. Continuous Rearguard. During your turn, this unit gets plus 3k and auto Rearguard on hit. Counterblast 1. When this unit attacks, it's a Vanguard. Pay the cost. If you do, draw a card. Choose a card from your opponent's drop zone, bind it face up. So, basically, he's a guy that helps you get Thunderstrike 2 as fast as possible. A lot of people are like, Ben, what's Thunderstrike 2? There's not a lot of things that goes Thunderstrike 2. This guy goes Thunderstrike 2. Sure, he's GB2, but GB1. But still, once you get there, you get there. Fatima is Thunderstrike 2. Dragon Dancer Bernadette is Thunderstrike 2 and not G-Break. That's the major ones right now. Except for, I run 3 Bishams. Auto, Vanguard, Rearguard, Thunderstrike 2, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1. When this unit attack hits a Vanguard, pay the cost. If you do revealed cards to the top of the deck equal to the number of your opponent's bind zone, search for 2 cards with Thunderstrike, call them the separate Rearguard's shuffle deck. End of turn, they go back called with the bind these cards called face up. So funnily enough, he works with Dungaree. He works with Dungaree. What a world! Dungaree's good again. Make Dungaree great again. Build that lightning wall. So let's say that you have 2 cards bound by your opponent. And because you use Chatura and Martial Arts Dragon. So you've used up 3 Counterblasts by using his skill. But you look at the top 2, you could get a column, you can get replacements. It's not called the separate open rearguard, it's some separate rearguards. You can call 2 Fatines, Soul Blast 2, though that would mean that you like Soul Charge 2, somehow. Get 2 cards out of it. There's all kinds of things you can do with this guy, and he's on hit. On hit is the icing on the cake. His only drawback is that he is a 10k. And while that isn't as much of a drawback as things have kind of been hitting 11k for a bit, it does hurt your strides quite a bit in the numbers. Like going down by 1 with voltage actually does hurt your numbers quite a bit. Just because it goes from being multiple of 3 to 5, 8, 1, 4, 7, 10, 3, 6, 9. Like, it takes a while to get back up to the 3s. 9, 12. Like, it's eventually, if you add enough 3s to anything, eventually it'll come back to, like, multiples of 3. Now, I'm not going to say that that's a good thing. But it does, especially in Vanguard, where you can miss ideal numbers just because of that. But it does cause, you to think it out a bit. It's like, oh, is it really worth it using his skill when I can use a Tutura, or when I can, summon out a Voltage, a Vanquisher, and get more beef out of it. It's all kinds of things. Let me go through some numbers real quick. 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12. Yeah, it'll work pretty much like that every time. 3s are an interesting number. They're prime, Dragonic Vanquisher. This is actually, I don't really consider it a very good stride breaker, but his strides are very powerful. G-Break 2. When your opponent's rearguard is put into the drop zone to the effect of one of your cards, this unit gets plus 3k and a crit until end of turn. Now, I want to make very clear here that if you do this, retire it, then bind it face up. So they goes to the drop zone, goes to the bind zone. So it counts. Voltage. Choose it, retires it, binds it face up. It counts for the plus 3k and a crit. I want to be very clear here. Just because you bind it doesn't mean you don't get it. Also, auto Vanguard Counterblast 1. During your turn, when your G unit strides, pay the cost. If you do choose an opponent's rearguard in the front row, retire it, bind that card face up. So, the weakness of this deck is your opponent not playing much. Or anything at all. I do have decks that can literally melt a field in between turns. Or like Mega Colony, I don't have to play anything. My strategy is deck out. Like, that's literally the proven strategy I have for my Mega Colony game. Just wait for them to deck out. Because I have an infinite Legion combo with my deck, I might as well just wait for it. So, when people play nothing against you, you can't use this Counterblast skill. You can't get G-Break 1, Thunderstrike 2, which will activate so many abilities. You cannot get off Chain Bolt Dragoon. You can't properly utilize Fatima. Can't use Ascetic Draco shit for shit. There's just nothing really you can do with it. But what you can do with it is stride over it and start pressuring your opponent. If your opponent plays nothing, you need to pressure him as much as possible. And you can do that with multiple ways. The first one is the first stride. Now, you see how I just kind of skipped over him? That's because, he's kind of just there for his stride ability. It's not even like Rising Nova, where there's a bunch of stuff that relies on Rising Nova. You could build a deck around Thunderstrike without him. But you can't really do that as well with Rising Nova and Charge. Just not really going to happen. Zoras. Now, I vacillate between running 2 of him and 1 Voltex Zapper, and 2 Voltex Zappers and 1 of him. Just so you guys know. I do switch around with that quite a bit. And I change my opinion all the time. Hold on. I run 1 of him, Thunderstrike 1 plus 5k. And then I run Bulwark Dragon. They have Thunderstrike 3, it gets plus 10k. And at the end of turn, when this unit is placed on into the battle, this unit is placed on G. For every 4 cards in your opponent's bind zone, choose 1 tap rearguard in the front row and retire it. So, it doesn't really stop Lambros, but what you can do is, you do it for their last rearguard. And let's say they have 8 bound cards. Just wipe out the front line before they can use Lambros. It's choice. It's choice. Anyway, back to this. So this is an on-hit. Zoras is an on-hit. When this unit hits a Vanguard, your opponent chooses 1 of his or her rearguards, retires it, chooses 2, and you choose 2 cards from your opponent's drop zone and bind them face up. So he's an on-hit. Retire 1, bind 2. Fortunately, they don't retire and bind, so it's not like 3. And you don't miss out on it. But, it's up to 2. They cannot be forced to do more than 2. And it is an on-hit, so it's pretty good. The reason why I sort of vacillate with him and Voltex Zapper, which I run 2 right now, should be pretty evident, actually. Because he gets Thunderstrike 3 if he hits. Auto Vanguard Thunderstrike 3. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, until end of battle, this unit gets plus 10k. And Auto Vanguard Counterblast 1. At the end of the battle, you may pay the cost. For every 2 cards in your opponent's bind zone, the opponent chooses 1 of his or her rear guards, binds it face up. So, like, oh, it's kind of hard to use because both of them are on hit, but Voltix Zapper is so much more powerful. And for the counterblast, it just adds so much more bound cards. Voltage actually doesn't require very many counterblasts in and of itself, because it just flips over a copy. But Voltix Zapper and VMAX do. And what I'll do is I'll talk about, and Voltix, Zapper is like, let's say you have 4 cards by the time this happens. That means that they lose 2 cards. And you get 6 cards in your bind zone. So when you voltage, that means that they get +8. You get +18 to your front row. Because I hope, anyway, that you're not just using this card for the first stride. That would be terrible. Act, Vanguard, once per turn, choose a face-down card named Conquering Supreme Dragon Voltage. When he drops on turn face up, until end of turn this unit gets. When this unit attacks its Vanguard, your opponent chooses one of his or her rear guard, retires it, and you choose up to 2 of your opponent's drop zone and bind them face up. So it's like Zoras, right? And then you get continuous Vanguard, GB3. During your turn, all of your opponent's units in your front row get +3k for every card in your opponent's bind zone. So Orthea from Aquaforce is not limited to how many bound cards you can throw in front of you for defense. So be careful fighting Aquaforce, because if they're smart, they'll play at least one Orthea and then play her in the most amusing manner possible. Kill it. So, in the example I had just given, where I Voltix Zappered them last turn, they have 6 cards in the bind zone, which means that unless I'm at 3 damage, I've used up 3 counterblasts, and I just want to wait a bit, for reasons. I flip them over, +18 to my front row. I have Martial Arts Dragon, which is a 20k. I have Chatura, which is 12k, excuse me, an 11k. I have Voltage Horn and Rock Climb, which can not really hit much of anything, because I'm not going to use Rock Climb skill this late in the game. But they do hit 27k apiece. And then that's with the boosters. Let's say that I decided to use 1 counterblast from Vanquisher's skill. So that Vanquisher kills something and binds it. I've got 2 Chain Bolt Dragoons. That's +2k. All of a sudden, that's +23k to my front row, because I'm going to give 3k to my 2 front units, because I do run stands. So with Chatura, that's, all of a sudden, that's 34k. For Martial Arts Dragon, that's 35k. That's real numbers, and that's before boost. Both those boosts put him into 42k territory, which is fantastic numbers. It's just fantastic numbers. I think the slow and steady thing really works with this deck more. Now, if their field's relatively empty, you can then go into VMAX. Now, VMAX has a continuous Vanguard. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, choose an opponent's rear guard for each Vanquisher in the G zone. And this unit battles both Vanguard and the units chosen by R in one attack. So, let's say that they only have 3 units. And you have 7 cards in your G zone and 2 counterblasts. Well, might as well roam them and be like, okay, swing. Resist does not. Hold up. Actually, it does choose. Yeah. I think resist does resist this because it is a choose ability. However, and someone's going to have to correct me on this. However, because it is an attack and not natural ability, I don't think it saves them. But I might be wrong on that, and it does save them. But then again, if you're fighting a resist deck, you probably don't want to go into VMAX. You probably just want to keep going into Voltage, of which I run 4. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, choose one of your opponent's... by the way, I've got the triple rares from set 5, baby. When this unit... Oh, hold on. GB3, Thunderstrike 5, Counterblast to it. At the end of battle, this unit attacked a Vanguard. If the opponent has no rear guards, pay the cost. If you do, choose one of your opponent's rear guards and deal a damage. Now, they can heal out of that damage, but it's still an automatic damage. It's like, it's almost as bad as Die Falcon, I think, where Cosmic Hero Falcon, X-Falcon, there we go, where you choose a rear guard and just put it into the damage zone. It's the same sort of thing. If they have a wiped field, you can basically say, let's see if the top card's a heal. And by the way, you should be paying attention to how many cards they've healed with. If they have no heals left in a weak field, just go for it. Just go balls deep. Conquering Supreme Dragon, Conquest Dragon. This is the last card I'll go over for this deck. Act Vanguard, once per turn. Choose a face-down card named the same. Turn it face up. If the number of face-up cards in your D-Zone 2 or more, choose one of your opponent's rearguards in the front row, retire it. And all your units in the front row get plus 5k for each open rearguard in the front row until end of turn. Basically, it's plus 10k to your front row, plus 10k to your Chituras, plus 10k to your Martial Arts Dragon, plus 10k to whatever else. Doesn't really matter at this point. Point is that giving plus 10k to these two units means that you are hitting at least 21k with both. Because you should be at Thunderstrike 2 at least by now. The only thing I'd say about this deck, and there's not much else to say about this card, other than, yeah, just wipe the front row. The only thing to say about this deck is there's almost no hand advantage, even with the Fatimas, and it does have a hard time dealing with decks that don't have to play cards in the field. Decks that do have to play cards in the field, like Gavriel and a few others, Golds, Royals, some Shadow decks, stuff like that, you do have an advantage over. But honestly, Spike Brothers, Mega Colony, or any deck that just can be like, okay, I just don't have to play anything to win. Or Granblue, really, or Pale Moon with Harry support and Cat. Really do put a stopper to your grand old time. And that, I think, is one of the weaknesses that they really need to do. But they try to fix it with VMAX by basically saying, I have an I win card. But again, you have to hit Thunderstrike 5. And that assumes that they have had 5 cards on the field that you could put into their bind zone. Besides being Counterblast 2. There's only unflip in this deck is the Vions and the Perfect Shields, as far as I can tell. And I use a lot of Counterblasts. Whew. Hopefully, though, they'll release cards that unflip more damage. But then that would probably make it OP. Ben Wheeler, the Mercenary King, thank you all for listening. Have a great evening. Like, comment, and subscribe.